This is Rock and Roll English. Real people, real English. Here's your host, Martin Johnston.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Rock and Roll English, episode number 347, baby. Oh yeah. The first podcast as well of 2025, and today we have a very, very, very special guest. Someone who is, I would say, famous these days on the internet. I see her videos absolutely everywhere. Her name is Aurora. She is from, well, she's not from, but her channel is Online Language Lessons. You may have seen some of her videos. She does lots of different sketches, often about an Italian girl that is trying to talk English and having a bit of difficulty. As I mentioned, they are very, very famous on the internet, especially in the learning English world. So I'm guessing you've probably come across one of them. And I must admit, I have had quite a few people on the podcast, but Aurora is one person who I follow. I actually properly follow, and I have been following for a couple of years. Mainly because I find it very interesting, because obviously I lived in Italy for a long time, but she is Italian and she lives in the UK. So I quite enjoy seeing things from the other side, let's say. So in today's episode, we have a chat about a bit of everything, really. What it's like to live abroad, especially strange things that Aurora finds in the UK, strange things that I noticed in Italy. And then towards the end of the conversation, we finish on one of my favourite topics, which is drinking and the difference in the drinking culture between Italy and the UK. So make sure you stick around for that. And as it's the first podcast of the year and we have a special guest, I have decided to be really generous and I'm giving everyone the transcript to this podcast. It is in the description of the podcast you are listening to right now. So you can stop the podcast, click the link, and then you will have the transcript. We are doing the full episode as well. Often we split the episode to go in the Rock and Roll English family membership area, but today it's the full episode. So the conversation is a little bit longer than the usual one. And one last thing I have prepared is a PDF with all of today's R&R vocabulary. So all of the difficult vocabulary, let's say, that is used, there is a PDF which you can download so you can have a written copy of it. Again, that is in the podcast you are listening to. You just need to click on the link. And on the subject of vocabulary, remember, if you have not done my free 14-day vocabulary challenge, make sure you do. Remember, it's free. It lasts 14 days. All you need to do is listen to one 10-minute podcast every day. And it is designed for lazy people that have no time to study, because all you need to do is listen. Again, the link to that is in the description of the podcast you are listening to. Anyway, that's enough of me talking. Let's jump into the conversation. I will talk to you again at the end to talk about the R&R vocabulary. Happy listening. So, hello, Aurora, and welcome to Rock and Roll English.
Hello, Martin. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for accepting the invitation. I do feel like a bit of a strange stalker today, because stranger, I know lots about you. And as I quickly mentioned in our brief pre-podcast chat, the reason I enjoy watching your stories, sometimes just sitting on the toilet, flicking through your phone, is because it's very much like Rock and Roll English. You're just talking about day-to-day life, like things that have gone wrong with your kids, or things that you just general life. And that is what we love on Rock and Roll English. Not talking about really serious stuff, just general life. So yes, I am a very, very big fan. And as mentioned, I can see myself in you in many ways, because, well, in fact, you tell us, just in case anyone that doesn't know about you, tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, okay. So my name is Aurora. I am Italian, and I've been living in the UK since 2011. Is that right? Yes, 2011. And I moved here when I was 18 to go to university, where I studied drama and modern languages, because my original dream was to become an actress. After that, I went into teaching. So I did a qualification called PGCE, and I became a Spanish, Italian, and Latin teacher in secondary schools here in the UK. And I worked as a teacher for 8 years. I also moved to Qatar to teach in a British school there, but then the pandemic hit and we had to return to the home base. So me and my husband, that is. And I taught in British schools for 8 years, and then I started doing videos online just to teach languages in general originally, and then it turned into more like teaching English to Italians because I kind of enjoyed the camera, really. But I was still really I was very much still in my teaching mode. So the first videos I shared were quite serious and, quite academic. And then I started embracing my drama side, and slowly, because I've been doing this for 4 years now, started including sketches and situations, and very much created characters that played roles that represented me on a site. Like one of my characters is Laura, and she's literally my alter ego. She represented me fresh from the boat to the UK as an Italian with a strong accent, or making lots of mistakes and falling into the traps of English. And I played that, creating lots of misunderstandings that may cause laughter and comic effect. And that's something I always found that it's successful when teaching. So when I was teaching Latin or Spanish in school, I always would, play it to make it as comical as possible, so that my students would laugh and remember and stay focused. And so the entertainment really played a positive role in the language journey, in the teaching journey. And so yes, those videos started developing and changing, and they're always changing. And I do everything myself, from the script writing to the filming to the editing, and I've become a better editor.
Just on that quickly, I just don't think people understand what is behind that. Like, people see your videos and think, oh well, that's great and stuff, but even just the script writing, some of yours in particular are fantastic. The way, like, you've found some words maybe where there's a misunderstanding, but just that whole process is so time consuming and so difficult. So yeah, I just want to say a big well done, because
Thanks.
Your video, I mean, obviously they're great, everyone loves them, but when I watch them, I just think of everything behind that as well. But I didn't know you edit them as well. Wow.
So sometimes I start from a situation. So like, okay, I want to create a situation at the airport, or at the supermarket, or at the grocery store, or at the post office. And I create the situation around it. And I start brainstorming all the vocab that may be involved in that specific situation, that may be required, in that specific situation. I start thinking about any misunderstandings or any words that, as an Italian or as a non-native speaker, I would use, and then cause and cause how can I describe it? And then cause a confusion,
I suppose.
And other times I start from the joke itself. So, for example, very recently, one of my latest videos was the Italian cashier. So I've done a few of those. You got the Italian cashier and the British customer, right? And this latest one started from the word Belin. So Belin in Ligurian dialect is a bit informal word, which means the male genitalia.
Right, okay.
And it's
I didn't know that one.
And it's used to say, oh, come on. Or it could be used in any way, like, oh, come on. Oh. And I noticed very recently that sounds like Berlin, the city. Okay. So I really wanted that joke in one of my videos, Berlin.
Yeah.
Okay. And I started from that and I created a situation around it to get to Berlin.
Got ya.
Okay, so it depends on the video. It depends how inspired I am. Sometimes I write scripts and then I'm like, oh, I don't think it works. And I leave it. I just leave it there.
Oh, wow.
And I go back to it a week later or 2 weeks later, and then I read it again, and I realize what was missing, or I reread it. I'm like, actually, it's not too bad. Let's try it. And sometimes I share things which I think are absolutely hilarious and they're going to be great, and then they do not perform. And there's other things at other times where I'm like, oh, I hate this one, and I post it and people love it. My very first supermarket video was Laura not understanding what the cashier was asking, and the cashier was asking questions such as, "Do you want a bat? Do you want a bat with that? Do you want a bat with cart? Do you have a clap cart?" Like this, right? And Laura was really panicking, and she was saying, "Sarah, please help me." Sarah is my posh British character, and Sarah pops up as a little fairy, and she kind of translates what the cashier says. So that was my very first supermarket video, and I was about not to post that.
Oh, wow. And that one,
I hated it.
That was the one that did really. So that one, just in case anyone hasn't seen that, is what's great about that is the English girl with the fake eyelashes, which my wife, as an Italian, has picked up on and always says that to me. And it's that, and wearing like flip flops that English girls love. Fake eyelashes and flip flops.
Yeah, and the head bun.
Yeah, exactly.
Hair bun, sorry. So yeah, that was my very first supermarket video, and people absolutely went ballistic about those. They loved them, and several of those went viral. Like the majority of those always get millions of views on TikTok and Facebook and Instagram. So the very first one I was about not to post because I hated the editing of it.
Yeah,
I just thought the green screen was really rubbish. The quality of the video was really rubbish, but then it worked. So who knows?
Yeah. Well, that's I think actually a useful lesson, because I've had the same similar situation to that. But I always think I've got to the point now. If I've invested more than like 20 minutes doing something, I just think I'm just going to do it, because sometimes you actually just don't know how it goes at all. But it's also good seeing the opposite now of when you have the supermarket sketch and you have the like English girl going to the supermarket and like making a bit of a fool of herself and like saying things which make it's for example, it's nice for me to see almost English people looking stupid.
Yeah, but I mean, yes, because in the majority of my videos, as they represent me and my mistakes, there's always the Italian girl looking stupid.
Yeah. I always remember when I first said to my wife, we were having a pizza, and I said, "Can we have some oregano?" And like she absolutely fell on the floor with laughter.
Well, one of my husband's greatest lines was at the restaurant, an Italian restaurant, and he said, "Possiamo avere acqua del gabinetto, per favore?" He said gabinetto, which is the toilet, instead of rubinetto, which is the tap. So he asked for toilet water instead of tap water, and I was dying.
Yeah, it is strange how when you speak that language, you probably sometimes can't see the connection between those two words. But then when someone else says it, you can actually...
I never noticed that. So
one of my first things when I was in Italy, I was talking to someone and her brother had had a baby, and I knew the mum as well. And I wanted to say, your mum is very happy, like obviously felice, but I said facile, like, and sort of obviously your mum is easy, kind of. Yeah, I'm sure that sort of translates in most languages.
This is what happened to Sam. He wasn't speaking to me in Italian. He was speaking to me in English, and he said this. He looked at me and he said, "Hello, ball." And I was like, "Sorry." And he was like, "Sorry, I meant beautiful." You completely spoiled the moment. Thank you very much. That one time you gave me a compliment, you called me a ball. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Lovely.
So it happens in
Call
English as well to native speakers.
Calling someone a ball, yeah.
Hello, ball. Sorry.
What a compliment that is. But
yeah.
as mentioned to you again in our pre-podcast chat, I see myself in use in lots of ways because, well, when I was living in Italy, and I was married to an Italian, obviously I had children there, and it's obviously the same for you on the other way. So I wanted to ask you some questions to see what it's like on the flip side, because I've spoken on this podcast so many times about things that I found so strange in Italy, obviously being a Brit, going there as well. I had the disadvantage of not knowing anything of the language when I got there, so that took me quite a while as well. So living in the UK, what are some things that you find strange about us Brits?
I mean, it's too late to ask that question.
Or in fact, so here's the other thing:
Been
or
so
have you just
long
become
now.
so I was going to say Britanized. I don't think
I can think back at the beginning and
Mm.
some things that really annoyed me were.
So one thing that I've heard you say, which I do this myself, is because you've lived abroad for so long, and I've heard you say that your Italian has suffered. And I feel like that with my English, because I lived abroad for so long and I was just obviously teaching English, talking like using basic English for like the whole day. And I made a video the other day, and I think I said it's one of the most expensive areas of London. And I was thinking, is it of London or in London? Surely it's in London. But I was just like, almost, you translate from Italian sometimes. I find myself making errors in English because I'm almost translating from Italian sometimes.
Yeah, no, my Italian is really bad, and it's a shame because I went to I did Liceo Classico, and when I graduated from that, my Italian was amazing, and I spoke really well and I wrote really well, and now I am awful. I make lots of mistakes. Sometimes I have a weird accent. A lot of people say that when I speak Italian, my accent sometimes is a bit strange. Like I sound a little bit English when I speak.
Yeah.
Maybe with some consonants. I'm not sure. And then, when if I have an informal chat, I'm absolutely fine. But if I have to have a formal conversation, then I struggle a little bit more because I know what I don't know, if you know what I mean. If that was my second language, I wouldn't. But because I've studied, I know the level of Italian people that speak really well have, I realize what I'm lacking, and I'm like, oh my God, I really miss so much vocabulary. So I lack. Sorry, I don't miss it. I lack it. And but at the same time, I find the same in English, even though I'm fluent and I feel like perfectly confident in English, I find the same, that I'm not 100% as confident as I'd like to be. And I wonder if that's normal when you're bilingual.
Yeah, I imagine, I don't know, that's something that probably never. I think if you speak a second language, again, this is my theory, you will always still think, I can do better with this.
Yeah.
I assume, I don't know, but these like things about living abroad, it's good to sort of share these things. People don't really think about these things when you live abroad, how you, even your own language, you start to almost
I love
lose
the meme
in some way.
Instead of bilingual is bilingual, because you're saying goodbye to both of them, because you're not completely fluent in either by the end of it. So
absolutely. This, I suppose, a bit of a deep question, which I wasn't thinking of asking, but I want to get your thoughts on this, because I had to proofread someone's like dissertation or something like that once, and it was about immigration, and it said how when you move abroad, obviously you're always a foreigner there. Like you can be really integrated. Like I'm sure you are. I felt really integrated when I was in Italy, but I still was a foreigner. Like, and you still feel I am different. But then, well, certainly now I've moved back, I still feel like a foreigner here. And so they say in this dissertation, this person was making the point, when you move abroad, you never fully belong in your new adopted country. And then when you go back, you don't feel like you belong in your country. No. So you're just stuck in the middle. Is that a feeling you've had?
Absolutely. And every time I go back to Italy, I feel the same. I feel like I'm a bit of an outsider. Mm-hmm. I think what the problem is that we kind of seek the same feeling and comfort of that feeling of belonging that we had when we were children. And we'll never have that once you've grown up and you've left. And when you go back to your country
for such a long time as well. It's not like you've gone for like 3 months.
Yeah. And when you go back to your country, you kind of are seeking that feeling that you had when you first lived in that country, but it's never going to be the same. So that is also why, that it may be scary to go back to your main country, because you may feel, I left there for a reason. I left from there for a reason. And am I going to feel the same way I did when I was 16, 18, whatever, and left? Or is it going to be completely different because now I'm going back with my family as a new person? You can tell me what your experience is like. Is it exactly the same the way you left?
No, 100% no. It's you do feel weird. And then obviously I came back with an Italian wife, and so you've always got that connection. Like we speak Italian at home, for example. That's our I talk Italian with her. I talk English with the kids, but everything just seems so weird. And now as mentioned, I feel like a foreigner. Like the thing that drives me crazy now in the UK is like someone says, "Oh, let's meet on Saturday. Let's go out, like have something to eat." Right? Yeah, brilliant. Like what time? They say 3:00. And you say like,
"Is that lunch or dinner?"
Is that exactly? What is that?
Well, you're lucky because every time I say to anybody, "Shall we meet on Saturday?" I already have plans. I have to book into their calendar. That's something I hate. My friend, one of my closest friends, Rosie here, she loves the fact she's like, I love how I can just call you and ask you, shall we meet up right now? And you say, yes, just come over. That's something I can never do with any of my other friends. And I'm like, and you know what's something I absolutely hate about you guys is like, shall we meet up? Yes, let me check my calendar. Right. In 3 months on that Sunday, whatever, of January, we can meet up. And I found that ridiculous. I hate it. I'm much more spontaneous. I don't like to plan so much in advance and put a meal in the calendar with you 3 months beforehand, because I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow. I don't know what I'm going to do this weekend. You think I'm going to know what I'm going to do on the 8th of January? Actually, I know what I'm going to do on the 8th of January because I've got my British citizenship ceremony.
Oh wow! There's like a full-on ceremony. I didn't know.
Yeah, there's a ceremony. You have to swear an oath. You say that.
Do you get to meet any of the royal family? Is that part of the deal?
I shake hands with the king.
Because I know it's really expensive, isn't it? Is that right?
So the ceremony is not
like the whole thing.
Yeah, is I paid just under $2,000, and I didn't have to do the English test. So you've got the life in the UK test, which is a ridiculous test.
That is mental, isn't it?
Asking some crazy question. I did a few videos of me testing Sam and see if he knew the answers, and he didn't.
Of course.
Then you have to do a language test to prove that you can speak English. But I didn't have to do it because my degree was from the UK, so I didn't have to sit that. And then you have to do you have an appointment where you bring in your documents. That's another 250 quid, where they're checking whether your passport matches your face and things like that. And and then finally you wait. I waited for 8 months to see if it was approved. You get an email and then you can book your ceremony. So
Right. And do you get a passport as well as part of the?
No,
Is that like a
after that you have to apply for
right?
a passport. There's going to be another few months to wait.
And will that say nationality British?
It would say British, yeah.
Oh, how so? One of my friends lives in Sweden, and he got a Swedish passport, and he said when he got it and it said nationality Swedish, he said there was just like a feeling in his stomach, like
Oh, okay. Oh, when you applied
Yeah.
for the Swedish passport.
yeah.
Yes.
He lives in Sweden, so he
Yeah.
got his
Oh,
Swedish
yes.
passport.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll say British. Yeah, I'll be British.
Wow.
I'll be dual nationality holder.
Yeah.
So
Well, my plan is to do the same. But when I looked into doing this, I was still living in Italy, and I went to like the local comune thing, like council, and then
Great
they said
experience.
no. Yeah, they sort of like waited like the whole day, and then they said no, you have to go to the police station. And then I went to the police station, and then they said no, you have to go to the comune.
Oh my god, I'm going to do a
council.
sketch about this because I think
And-
that's hilarious.
And then they said, well, maybe you have to like call the London embassy. And then I think at that time they weren't taking appointments for like another like almost 1 year. I thought, you know what, I don't really need this, so I think I'm just going to give up.
I think that's what they count on. Like they just really want
People
you
just give
to
up.
not
Yeah.
pursue your passport so they can.
Yeah, my favorite one of these was well, I say favorite, it was absolute fucking disaster when it happened. So I was living in Italy, and I used to get the bus to work, and already the bus times was like, well, I think it was one at 8:30, and then the next one was at 9:30, and then if that didn't come, the next one was at 12:00. And so I missed it. I was there, the bus 9:30. I was there from about 9:15. The bus didn't come.
Oh.
And so I waited there from about 9:15 to about nearly 11:00. So I waited the whole morning. Then in the end, I just had to drive. And I thought, you know what?
When you got the car, you saw the bus coming, I bet.
No, I didn't see it at all. And I thought, you know what? I'm not having this. So I'm going to go and complain. And so like went and complained and went to the office, and they say, you have to go to the other office. So I went to the other office, and they said, no, you have to go back to that office. Went back to that office, and they said, okay, call this number. So I called this number, and then when I called it, it would say, I'd call in at probably at 11:00 in the morning, and it said, our offices are closed at the moment. They are open from 9 till 1. I was like, yeah, but it's 11. So I'm calling in the hours that you'll say you're accepting calls. So you just literally couldn't do anything. I went to both offices.
Complain. What is this complaining thing? You can't complain.
Exactly. So yeah, that was one of the things that drove me crazy.
Yeah.
But so as you mentioned, being so like ingrained now in like British life culture. So one question I have to ask you, like, because I'd imagine you've obviously lots of British traditions and stuff are just part of your day-to-day life. If you drink a cup of tea, would you drink it with milk in it?
Yeah.
Oh, you do? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, you might lose your Italian passport for that, I think.
Just way more than I've done to lose my Italian passport.
Wow.
Yes.
I didn't think you would say yes to that.
Yeah.
Again, my wife, when I remember it was at my grandmother's house, and she made a cup of tea with like milk in it. And my wife's just like, when my grandma left the room, was just sort of like quickly passing me that cup of tea of like, please drink this. Like, I can't do it.
I have just chamomile with honey and
right.
And no milk, but with tea, yes, I have to have milk. I mean,
Right,
I feel literally I'm 50-50. Like I feel literally I am British in Britain and I can be Italian in Italy. I'm 100% both. I feel that's why I'm really looking forward to get my British passport, because I feel having the dual nationality really represents me at the moment.
Yeah. I must admit, I have a similar thing. Like I remember when I first got to Italy, and it would be like, if we're eating this, you could only have this pasta, and it'd be like, no, like you can't have that pasta.
Yeah, it's like you know, when I
now I see that. I see it.
I am going for the Italian way. I have the Italian food. I just appreciate each culture properly for the way they do things. So if I am
Yeah.
having Italian food, I have it properly. I don't mix it up with other shit. I hate when they put chicken with pesto. No way.
Right.
Like, no way. Maybe it's also because I'm Ligurian, so I'm a big
Okay, pesto, yeah.
pesto lover, like
Yeah.
proper handmade pesto. I can't have the ready pesto. I can't have that. I have to
Right.
hand make it. But I also love a good Sunday roast. I love it. I
Right.
love beans on toast. I love a full English breakfast.
Well,
I love sausages and
see,
bacon. I love, I just love
yeah.
both cultures. There's also
So,
things I hate about both of them.
right.
So yeah.
Any come to mind about English? Because when you said Sunday roast, I thought that is nice, but I was surprised at beans on toast.
I love beans on toast. I love beans on toast.
Such a great meal, isn't it? Just a quick.
Yeah. I love it. It tastes so good. The first time I remember myself, the Laura of me, my alter ego, when I moved here, and I had I moved to the UK and I met a boy and we went out for 2 years, and he was the first British. Oh, again, he was the first British person that really got me into the culture, let's say. And I remember he woke up one morning and he made beans and toast, and I was like, what is this disgusting thing? Like, what are you having beans with ketchup in the morning? That's disgusting. It's not ketchup, it's tomato sauce or something along the lines of that. And he said, you absolutely have to try this before you judge it. And I was like, no way, no. And I resisted for months. And then one day I was like, okay, right, I'm going to taste it. And I loved it so much. I was like, every morning having beans on toast. And he would add cheddar as well.
Okay, taking it to the next level. Wow.
I loved it.
Yeah.
And I never thought I would. So it's also, embracing another culture is also thinking, be more flexible with your ways of living and thinking what life should be lived like, and really be more open-minded about trying new things and see there's another way of living. When I go back to, when we have to deal with mums, my mum or, my husband's mum, they have their ways, they have their ways and they have to do their things that way. And we are trying to tell them there's a different way of living. There's a different way of doing things, and it's okay. And it's really hard to get them out of that routine. Life should be like this, and you should go to school. You should attend school, and then you should grow up, and then you should find your job, and then you have your, long-term relationship, and then you get married, and then you have, which is exactly what we did. Which is exactly what we did, but also we are more flexible with choices.
Absolutely. I am surprised with the beans on toast, and I must admit that is what a way to treat a woman. Hey,
in fact,
what a treat!
It's a relationship which didn't last.
Yeah, I actually thought that's strange that that didn't last. The one which drives me crazy, and I know a couple of Italians that have lived in England for so long, they actually do this, but for me is just absolutely not acceptable, is if you are eating like pasta with like some fish in there and then put cheese on that pasta. Like if you've got fish in there, what are your thoughts on this? Have you become
I am not
English
a massive
as well? And
fish lover. So
right,
I wouldn't. I don't have pasta with fish in England at all, ever.
Right.
If I have pasta, I have pasta with scampi e zucchine trombette liguri, right? In Liguria back home. That's as far as my fish in pasta goes. And I wouldn't put cheese. So I respect the dish.
Right. Okay.
I respect the dish. If I have a roast, a Sunday roast, I'd put gravy on it. That's the way you eat it.
Absolutely.
Really funny. Something I've noticed of Italians that other cultures don't really do is, maybe, I'm not sure about, like, Brits don't really think that far, is every time we have an English dish, we are really looking around at other people, see what they're doing, or we're like, what should I do with this? How should I eat it? Because we know how each dish, we really have that mentality, that culture. Each dish has to be eaten in a certain way, and you cannot change the way you eat it. So we would do the same with an English dish. We're like, okay, how should I eat it? The gravy? I remember the first time we have a roast. Every time I have friends from Italy or family from Italy coming over, we take them out to have a roast, and they all love it. Everybody asks about the gravy. Where should I put the gravy? And we just say, on everything. And like,
yeah, just go
is
mental.
it just on the meat, or is it just on the broccoli, or is it just on no, on everything, or is it just inside the Yorkshire pudding? So it's really funny because I don't think you guys, when you come over, naturally would really make sure you ask how to eat something. You just go for it.
The classic is seeing people cut pasta,
yes.
Which I must admit, I actually did that as well when I first got to Italy, and was quickly made aware that is not really tolerated.
A big debate we have between me and Sam is the fact that I eat risotto with a fork and he eats it with a spoon. I'm like, you can't eat it with a spoon. And I don't know why. But it just doesn't taste the same if you eat it with a spoon, because it's not a soup. And
I agree.
It's
a bit
just
weird.
Says you're ridiculous. It's so much easier to eat it with a spoon.
But one of mine was when my brother came to see me, and we'd gone out for dinner, and there was lots of Italians there, and then everyone had like an after dinner like digestive, like I think it was like grappa or something like that, and so you put a shot glass in front of an English person, and they just like threw it back. Everyone kind of looked at it. I was like, oh, like, you're not really supposed to do that. You're supposed to sort of drink that
slowly.
Okay.
But with limoncello, you should go for it. Really, no.
You would go for it even with a lemon tea. I try and enjoy the taste. I think it depends. Savor it.
Yeah, the drinking thing is a massive thing. Actually, you make me think about it, because I moved to. That
was why I moved away. I couldn't handle it anymore. I couldn't handle the drinking.
Yeah, I moved. I was 18, very naive. Moved to uni, Freshers Week, right? The first week. Oh God,
that I don't think people understand how, like,
I was shocked.
It's just so, like, if you don't drink, like,
I was shocked because some flatmates wouldn't come out because they said they weren't drunk enough. I was like, sorry? So you're not coming out? We're organizing this thing, going out all together, and you're not coming out because you're not drunk enough? Just makes no sense to me. And also, the pre-drinks, you have to get drunk before you go out. I just thought it was completely, it just didn't make any sense. On the other hand, when I go back to Italy now and we're going out, I'm very happy to have lots of glasses of wine or whatever. None of my Italian friends are on the same, I drink more than them now. And that's the British culture's affecting me.
It's just so much more fun when you're drunk. Like, so I don't know if this is the same for weddings in the north, but a wedding in Sicily, no one really gets drunk.
No.
And it's like, this is not fun if it's not. And the other thing I find really weird, again, I don't know if it's the same of weddings in the north, but in Sicily, it's like you have your starter, for example, you sit down, you eat that, and then everyone gets up and dances for like,
in Sicily,
20 minutes, half an hour. Yeah. Everyone will get up and dance for like 20 minutes, half an hour. And then they sit down again and then have like the like primo, like the pasta or whatever, and then eat that. And then everyone gets up and dances again. So I obviously don't. I'm like, look, unless I'm absolutely shit-faced, I'm not dancing. Like, it's just not happening. Like, so I'm just that boring one. Like, luckily my father-in-law is not a dancer, and he sort of like gives me some company, so I'll just be sitting on the table next to him. But I just don't get like that, how to go. So
they serve you their main course without wine or anything?
No, you have like a glass of wine, but it's not like you're like properly drunk. Like in England, like a wedding is like you have like the meal and then like drinking, and then when you're really drunk, you go on the dance floor. That's
I
how
think
sort of
this
British men work.
drinking culture is becoming more of a thing in Italy
Right.
among young generations now.
Mhm.
So if I see my wedding and my friends getting married now, I can see that they are drinking way more. I mean, I am not supporting that at all. I mean, I prefer that British people drank less in general,
Yeah.
and there was less peer pressure. There's so much peer pressure when you go out with your friends, especially
Absolutely.
among men, to
Yeah.
"Oh, beer, yeah, rock beer, yeah, lads, yeah, let's drink." I hate that. I hate that.
Yeah,
I
I
hate that
agree.
culture. I hate, Sam was a rugby player he went to an all boys school. That's another thing that's really different in Italy. We don't really have single sex schools. And so
Okay.
the men are really laddie, really manly. And
Yeah.
I don't like that. I don't see that in Italy as much because of mixed schools. Like men and women are growing up together and they can
Yeah.
deal with
Yeah.
having
I
friends
went to a
of the
mixed
opposite
school,
sex.
but yeah, I went to a mixed school, but the sort of drinking culture was still the same, and like the peer pressure. And I remember the sort of just even like being at university or like in my 20s, and I would be like with my friends maybe, and you say like, well, let's do something. What should we do? And we would kind of look at each other and be like, when I was actually living in London as well, after I graduated, I was living in London. Like, right, well, let's do something today. What should we do?
Let's go get drunk.
There's not really anything to do, is there? Except go to the pub. And we're like, yeah,
That's
I can't think of
probably
anything to do.
also what it is. Like there isn't that much to do. So
I mean, think like we lived in London, like Zone 2 London.
there's
I'm
plenty to
pretty
do, but
sure
it's expensive. Like
yeah, that's
what are you
true.
gonna do?
Well, if we were cultured, though, if we were cultured people, we could have gone to a museum. But
you do
those
that
are free.
once, a month or every 2
That's
months.
true.
What are you going to do that every Saturday, going to a museum? Yeah, that's lovely, but I don't think very many people be interested in that. I mean,
so basically, it's just let's go to the pub.
so that poses the question: what do Italians actually do then with their afternoons when they are young?
Yeah. I remember as well. Again, when I moved to Italy, someone would be like, "Do you want to go out for an ice cream?"
And I walk
like,
along the seaside.
But they would say like, "Yeah, an ice cream." I'm like, what? Like, we're going to eat the ice cream. That's going to take like 5-10 minutes max. Then what are we going to do? I just couldn't
walk and a chat along the seaside.
Or sometimes I would be out in Italy, again, especially in Sicily, generally outside most of the time. Someone would just come along, like, do you want a drink? I'll get you one. No, I'm not drinking. I said, well, what are you doing here then? Like, you're making me feel uncomfortable because you haven't got anything in your hand.
Yeah,
and that's weird.
That's you thinking that's awkward. Whilst in Italy is very much I'm coming here to catch up and see you and have a chat, and
yeah,
we're not.
My brain just couldn't. Even now, really, that's like I said, I feel very sort of at home when I'm in Italy, but the going out and like not even like even just to get a bottle of water, just get something to hold something in your hand. Like, what are you doing with your hands? Like, your hands are making me feel uncomfortable.
Really funny is like British girls' pictures are all about them in a pretty dress holding a glass of wine. I don't know if you've ever noticed that before.
Absolutely,
maybe because you're a man, maybe not. But whilst that's not the case with Italian women, they wouldn't take pictures of themselves holding alcohol. It's not common.
I hadn't noticed that point actually. But yeah, the British girls' pictures, I can vividly see that of like pictures on Facebook. Everyone's got a glass of wine in their hand. But yeah, I'll have to pay attention to the Italian one. But one other quick thing I thought I would share on like the wedding whole getting drunk thing. We went to my friend's wedding, and my wife was quite shocked that my friend's like parents and grandmother were like ridiculously drunk and dancing. She was kind of like my friend's grandma. She must have been at least 80, and she was very clearly drunk and kind of like swaying and putting her arm around everyone, which I can't imagine many Italian grandmothers
Absolutely not.
Getting smashed.
No, absolutely not. I've never seen my parents,
Not even your
friends,
parents. Okay.
my parents' friends when we went out for
Okay.
meals, and we went out loads. We will always go out on a Sunday to restaurants and stuff. It was like a thing all the time, going out for meals with, you know, my friends and their families. Never seen any elderly Italian drunk. None of my friends' parents. Never, ever. I've only seen drunk Italians that were my age. Just
Right.
us. Probably we were the first generation of Italians
to actually
get drunk, and quite often as well. I mean, not once in a while. Like, it'd go out more often and it would happen. It was more common. But that was not the case. And that I personally have never seen friends drunk under the age of 17. It started happening when we turned 17, 18, our last year of high school. Not before, ever. No.
Yeah. I did a podcast about this, of how it's just so ingrained in you because, you mentioned you never saw your parents drunk. I remember vividly, even when I was like under the age of 10, and maybe we would have a New Year's Eve party, or we would go to someone and all the adults would be getting smashed.
Yeah, and
like, really
the thing is, in my mentality, thinking back with me as a 16, 15-year-old, it was seen so badly by everybody if someone was
standard.
drunk. So I remember once, I think I was 18, and we went to a dress-up party, and I did drink too much, and I was a bit drunk, and I was 17 probably. And I remember the looks of my peers, like, my God, she is drunk, si è ubriacata, with that tone of like, oh my God, she's like, it sounded like I was a drug addict. I was addict or something.
Shooting up heroin.
And I remember my boyfriend at the time was so embarrassed, and he was like, you embarrassed me. You were so drunk. Everybody knew you were drunk. And I was like, oh my God, what have I done? I still remember it now. Like, oh my God, the sense of guilt of I drank that extra glass of whatever, that cocktail.
Yeah.
So I think it's totally a cultural thing. And
that is 100% true. The first time as well, I went to a party in Italy, like a house party. I was like, right, house party, I'm good at this, I know what to do. I bought a crate of beers. So I bought like 20 beers, thinking like, and we're going to get drunk. And when I got there, so it was a house of students. Then I think it was quite a big student house of like friends that I knew. There were probably about 6 people living in this house, and they were cooking, and I was like, what is this? But like cooking like nice food as well. Like they were cooking like fish, and I was like,
barbecue. I
thought this is a party. Like I thought we were just going to get smashed.
No, it's
like,
all about
I didn't even think of
nicely food. And enjoying each other's company. I love that. I think that's
and
lovely.
that certainly now. And I actually think I left the UK
from your point of view.
Pardon?
It takes time to get used to from your point of view. It took time to get used to the opposite for me and be like, I just want to have a nice meal with my friends. Why do we have to go out and drink and drink and drink? I don't really want to. So yeah.
Luckily, obviously, I imagine it's probably the same with you from when you were at Freshers Week compared to now with 2 children. Luckily, it does slow down. It seems. Because like drinking with children, since I've had kids, I've only got really drunk once, and the next day was like the worst day of my life.
The hangover with
and kids jumping on you at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Nope.
Absolutely. So I think we feel like we've kind of bad-mouthed English culture a little bit. So let's finish with something you really enjoy about British culture.
So I think I said this to you before earlier when we were chatting before starting the episode. Is how free I felt from people's judgment since I moved here. I was free to do whatever I want, to wear whatever I want, to get out with no makeup, to look great, to look horrible, to whatever, and to express myself and my creativity however I wanted. Even this social media, that I set up and the sketches that I do, I feel at the moment completely free to present myself however I want, wear wigs and costumes and not feel awkward about it. If I had stayed in my little town in Italy, I don't know if I would have reached this enlightenment of creativity if I would have felt free to explore my creativity in this way, because I would also always think about, oh my god, they're gonna think I'm such a loser for wearing fake moustache and a man's wig and put a voice on. And now I feel completely free and happy. Now, if we have in mind the idea of going back to Italy at some point, so will I still feel free when I go back? I hope so. That's something I want to continue doing.
This, if you do go back, you will be, our live stories will be even more similar, of living in the other country for so long and then going back to your hometown. We can do another podcast there about reverse culture shock, which is a thing. Believe me, it is a big thing. But certainly, if you were getting judged for having that extra glass of wine when you were young, then certainly I can see where you're coming from on that one, of feeling more free.
Again, I was 15. Teenagers are nasty. So in any country.
That's true.
So also you have to bear that in mind. Like, we're adults now. I'm a mother. I've got a family. Hopefully it won't be the same.
Yeah,
I see British teenagers being really awful as well. So
absolutely, I think it's a good point. When I was in Italy, I sort of got the impression sometimes that people thought everything was perfect in England and said like, oh, like everyone's so polite in England, and I was like,
adults can be,
and not always. And I specifically remember for the Brexit vote, I was there, and everyone said, yeah, but they'll never vote to leave, and I was like, I'm a bit worried. And they were like, no, like the English people, they will never vote to leave. And then it came in, and I was like,
people have in mind Londoners more than anything, and don't realize that the rest of the country is,
Yeah, I kind of got the impression lots of people imagined sort of like the classic sort of like Mary Poppins kind of thing of like a British man walking with his umbrella and his like hat on. And I always thought that's not really the case.
Yeah, no.
Unfortunately not. Well, anyway, I've taken up more of your time than I actually wanted to, because it's been so lovely talking to you. I feel I can relate to you so much, and I hope people that maybe live abroad have found this useful. But just in case anyone hasn't heard of you, which I think is not likely, tell them where they can find more about
my page is Aurora's Online Language Lessons on Facebook, Instagram, and Aurora Ricotti Ottman, which is my full name, on TikTok, and Online Language Lessons, or Aurora's Online Language Lesson. I can't even remember if my name is for YouTube.
I'll put links. I'll put links to all of this. Will probably be easiest in the show notes.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Aurora, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so that was Aurora and I talking about a bit of everything, really. I obviously really enjoyed the conversation. I was very happy to talk to her and share my experience of living in Italy and hearing her experience of living in the UK. And I hope you enjoyed it too. So, as mentioned, now we are going to look at some of the R&R vocab. So, let's start. I mentioned that my wife, my Italian wife, has picked up on the fact that English girls love fake eyelashes. So, when you pick up on something, you notice it. Then Aurora said how English girls always have a hair bun. So if you have a hair bun or you have your hair in a bun, it's like when your hair is like on a ball, on your head. She also said that she paid just under £2,000 for British citizenship. So £2,000 meaning £2,000. £5,000, 5,000. £10,000, 10,000. We use this word grand to say thousand. I then told the story about the problem I had with a bus driver when I was in Italy, and I said, I'm not having this. So when you say that I'm not having it, it means I'm not accepting it. I also said that maybe Aurora is so ingrained in British life. So when you are ingrained in something, you are just part of it. It's part of you. I then said I try and savour the taste of like an after dinner shot, let's say. So when you savour it, you really try to enjoy the taste. And Aurora said when she was 18, she was very naive. So naive means obviously not stupid, but not a lot of life experience. Often young people are naive. She also spoke about Freshers' Week, which is the first week of university in the UK where there are no lessons. It's just go out and get drunk for a week, then everyone becomes friends, and then lessons start. We also had the word shit-faced, which means to get really drunk, when I said I don't dance unless I'm shit-faced. And Aurora mentioned that there is less peer pressure to drink in Italy. So peer pressure is when your friends are saying, drink, drink, drink. That is peer pressure. And she also mentioned the word lads when she spoke about her husband going out with the lads, drinking beer, and said the whole culture is a bit laddie. So the word lad is a difficult one to explain, but someone that likes drinking beer, often likes football, and just behaves like a bit of a hooligan. That is a lad. And then when I was talking about having an ice cream, Aurora said, yes, when you go out for an ice cream, it's nice just to go have a chat, to catch up. So when you catch up, you haven't seen someone in a while and you just tell each other about your lives, what's been happening. I mentioned how my friend's grandmother was drunk and swaying. So when you are swaying, you are moving from left to right because you can't really stand up very straight. And I asked if she had ever seen any Italian grandmothers getting smashed. Another word to get drunk, to get smashed. And then at the end I said we have bad-mouthed British culture enough. So let's end on a positive. So when you bad-mouth something or someone, you speak about that person or thing in not a nice way, let's say. And then Aurora also used a lovely piece of third conditional grammar and some lovely vocabulary when she said, if I had stayed in my little town in Italy, I don't know if I would have reached this enlightenment of creativity. So lovely conditional there. If I had stayed, I don't know if I would have enlightenment, which means a state of greater knowledge, understanding, let's say. And the last lovely piece of vocabulary is when she said she puts on a moustache, she wears a moustache and puts on a voice. So when you put something on, Google tells me it's when you assume a particular expression or accent. So if I put on an American accent, I will say, oh my God, whilst Aurora puts on a voice when recording her videos. So that is all of the R&R vocab. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember, you can download a PDF with all of this R&R vocab in the description of the podcast you are listening to right now. And in that description, there will also be the link to my free 14-day vocabulary challenge. Remember, it is specifically made for lazy people because all you need to do is listen to podcasts. But you can find out more about it by clicking the link. So thanks everyone for listening. I will talk to you very soon. But in the meantime, just keep on rocking, baby.
Thanks so much for listening to Rock and Roll English. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit rockandrollenglish.com and facebook.com/rockandrollenglish. We'll catch you next time.